Hey COD students, welcome to our module on body composition. Today you're going to do the assigned reading and then complete a quiz. You could have 2 attempts at the quiz, and the quiz is worth 20 points. There is no posted discussion for this module, but certainly if you have any questions or comments about the reading, you can certainly email me at bkfitzpatrick@collegeofthedesert.edu. I have a couple key points I wanted to go through as I went through the reading. So they're going to delineate between fat-free mass in one's body and fat mass. So fat mass is obviously just that, fat, adipose tissue. Fat-free mass can include anything from muscle, tendon, bone, portions of various organs, that type of thing. And they're using that to essentially describe what composes one's body. So body composition. They give a little bit of an example, well, they give an example of how certain measures of body composition can be misleading or maybe just paint part of the picture. The example they give is of someone who's 200 pounds, and let's say they're I forget what the book says, but let's say they're 6 feet tall. But there's 2 people that have those measurements, 200 pounds, 6 feet tall. A measurement like BMI just takes those 2 measurements into account, and we come up with a BMI or body mass index. But those people could have very different body compositions. So the example your book gives, if one of those people, let's say, is a highly trained athlete and has 8% body fat at 8% body fat at 200 pounds, they then have only 16 pounds of body fat, which is fairly low for their given size. Whereas if you took someone who is sedentary and at 6 feet, 200 pounds, and let's say their body fat was 20%, well, they're now carrying 40 pounds of body fat. So very different true body compositions, but that might not show up on some measures of body composition. So when you read about or get information about body composition, make sure you look at it with a critical eye. The reading briefly touches on metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of criteria that one would fall in that then puts them at risk for other conditions. So in order to have metabolic syndrome, you would need to have high blood pressure, high blood sugar, a large amount of body fat, particularly around the midsection, and then abnormal cholesterol and triglyceride levels. So that if you have those factors, then you essentially have what they call metabolic syndrome. And obviously someone who has metabolic syndrome is at risk for other conditions such as diabetes or heart disease. So if you see the term metabolic syndrome, it's also termed syndrome X. That's what they're referring to. I wanted to point out essential fats, right? So we all have to have not only fats in our diet, but we also have to have fats as part of our body composition. Women, just per their nature, largely for reproductive needs and that type of thing, have more essential fat. So when you see values for either kind of the limit for where we go from healthy body composition or healthy levels of fat to unhealthy levels, or when we go into the areas of being designated overweight or obese, women will have a higher value because they have more essential fat. They need more fat. It's largely located either in breast tissue, in the uterus, that type of thing. So just don't be alarmed when you see those different values. They give a couple definitions, the difference between overweight and obese. So being obese is more detrimental. You're further down the line of having more body fat, more potential health complications than someone who is overweight. So for a woman to be overweight, they must be over 32% body fat, and for a man it would be 19% body fat. So that kind of goes back to that example, or what I was talking about with women just have more essential fat, so their threshold for moving into these areas is going to be at a higher percentage. So again, 32% for women, 19% for men, and then you would have to have more body fat than that to move into a designation of being obese, and that is 39% for women and 25% for men. These values are all for adults between the ages of 20 and 39. But if we look at these numbers, those numbers, overweight and obese, just to give you an idea of kind of about where we stand in America or where we stood in 2018. So of Americans that are over 20 years of age, 70% or a little over 70% are overweight. And Americans over 20 years of age that are obese is 37%. So a huge portion of our population is obese, and obviously even a larger percent of the population, because it includes those that are obese, are overweight. You'll notice the BMI measurement that I talked about, and so that's just simply weight in kilograms over height in meters. They give a couple ways to measure body composition, right? So you've probably, if you've experienced body composition, a lot of you have probably had the calipers, right, where they or termed the skin fold test, where they take a couple sites and they see how much skin they can pinch, skin plus adipose tissue. So that's not a very reliable way. There's a fairly, I think they say anywhere from, your reading has it, but it's like 4 to 9% that it can be off as far as your body fat percentage. So not the most accurate or reliable method. The gold standard, when I was in PT school in 2005-ish, we learned that the gold standard was hydrostatic weighing, so being weighed while underwater, because adipose tissue is more buoyant than fat-free tissue. The gold standard was hydrostatic weighing. It has now since evolved, because when I was in school, they were just introducing the DEXA scan, and so that's dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, I believe is how that last word is said. So what this does, though, it can tell us not just how much fat mass we have and how much fat-free mass we have. It can also delineate within the fat-free mass what percentage is bone and what percentage is water, that type of thing. So you can truly see how much fat you have versus, maybe tissue like muscle, right? Which muscle is obviously beneficial to us in that it not only it obviously helps us move, but also it burns calories in itself, okay? And then lastly, in the reading, interesting section on low body composition, right? Because when we talk, we look at people that were worried about their body composition, oftentimes we default to, they're overweight, they're obese, they have too much body fat. But you also having too little body fat can be a problem. So that essential body fat, they say that just kind of to normally function, men need to have 3 to 5% body fat, and women need to have 8 to 12% body fat. So, and what the book points out is that if a medical professional, a doctor or a nutritionist or something like that encounters somebody that has, below that or very low levels of body fat, not only is the concern, are they getting enough calories, right, enough energy to function, but also if they're not getting enough calories, then are they getting enough nutrients in their diet, right? Because if they're not eating enough to get the energy, then perhaps there would be a concern that they're not getting enough nutrients to function, or to function long term, or to be healthy. Common nutrients that could be lacking would include potassium, calcium, and the reading lists a couple others. So hope you enjoyed that introduction. I hope that clears up some things and maybe just gets you prepped to do the reading and then take the quiz. Get the quiz done, and you've got almost 2 weeks to do it. So not this Friday, but the following Friday it will be due. Great work, and we'll talk to you later.